Hey guys, Mr. Terrar here with your e-learning lesson for April the 10th. Uh, Today we're going to be continuing our discussion on the history of FFA. We're going to talk about some of the milestones that have occurred over the history of the organization and kind of the steps along the way that have kind of got FFA to the point where it is today. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So when we last met on Wednesday, we talked about official dress and we talked about a little bit about the history of the FFA jacket. Just for a little bit of review, the first FFA jackets were worn by members from Fredericktown, Ohio. They wore them to the National FFA Convention, which at that point in time was held in Kansas City, Missouri. And basically, they wore those jackets as a way to stand out and represent their hometown in a unique way. And other FFA members saw those jackets and really took a liking to them. And from there on, in the years after that, more and more FFA members began to wear those blue corduroy jackets to national convention, and eventually the idea caught on. And in 1933, the National FFA organization adopted the blue corduroy jacket as their official dress. There are other elements of official dress, um, but the blue jacket's probably the biggest one. Let's talk about those other elements of official dress. For male members, uh, obviously an official FFA jacket zipped all the way to the top. Black dress slacks. Notice there that it's no jeans, no black jeans or anything like that. You need to be black slacks. A white collared shirt. So a button-up white shirt with a collar on it, an official FFA tie, and then black dress shoes. No boots or sandals. They need to be black dress shoes. For female members, uh, similar but a few little differences. Still an official FFA jacket zipped all the way to the top. A black skirt. And the skirt needs to be knee length. Um, in recent years, they have altered this just a little bit in that females can wear slacks as well. So they can wear either a skirt or slacks, a white collared shirt or blouse, an official FFA blue scarf. And the scarf is similar to a tie, but it is different. It's shorter, and it doesn't you don't really have to tie it like you do a standard tie, but it is similar to a necktie. And then black closed-toed heel or closed-toed dress shoes. So no sandals or tennis shoes. And then also, if indeed you are wearing a skirt, you need to wear black nylon hose to go with that skirt. So one key event in the history of FFA was the New Farmers of America. So we talked about on Wednesday how FFA started off as the Future Farmers of America. They were, young men, uh, predominantly in the South, that wanted to grow up and become farmers, and that's kind of where the organization had its start. We have to understand, the climate of the times. This was the early 1930s, sometimes in the 1920s. Schools, especially in the South, were predominantly segregated. There were schools for white students and schools for African American students. So FFA was really at the time only accessible to white students. And African American young men who were interested in farming and agriculture didn't really have the opportunity to join FFA. So they started their own organization called the New Farmers of America, and many of their symbols were very similar to that of the FFA. You look at their emblem up here. It's very, very similar to the FFA emblem. Really, the only difference that you can see right off the top is that instead of an ear of corn as kind of the framework of their emblem, it's a cotton ball. So Very, very similar. It was a similar organization, but it was intended for young men or African American young men to give them an opportunity. Their official colors were black and gold instead of blue and gold for FFA, but very, very similar. So fast forward to the 1960s, the civil rights movement was kind of at its peak in 1965. Integration was happening at a very rapid rate, and as schools became integrated, uh, African American students began to attend the same schools as white students. The NFA merged with the FFA, so the New Farmers of America merged with the Future Farmers of America in 1965. So African American students could then join the Future Farmers of America. The New Farmers of America had a creed as well, and we talked about the creed of the FFA. You look here, very very similar in terms of structure. They started every paragraph of their creed with the same two words as the FFA creed, I believe. So up until 1969, women were not permitted to join FFA. As I said on Wednesday, as you know, crazy as it sounds, back then the belief by many was that agriculture and farming wasn't a field for women. That women were relegated to house running the household or certain careers like teaching or nursing. But the opportunities for women in agriculture were very limited back then. Um, but finally, in 1969, they came to their senses and realized that they needed to permit young ladies to join FFA. So in 1969, FFA opened its membership to females. And as a result, it started off slow. We went from an organization prior to 1969 that was 100% male membership, and by the time we got to the modern era, 2020, women actually make up about 45% of our organization, and they hold over half of the leadership roles within our organization. So women have become a huge, huge part of FFA over the years. So they began to join FFA in the late 1960s, 1969, and by 1976 we had our first female national officer, a young lady by the name of Julie Smiley from Washington. So it didn't take young women very long to make a major impact in FFA. So yeah, women are a huge, huge part of FFA, and they hold more than half of the leadership positions in the organization. So our next major milestone comes to us in the 1980s. Now, to understand this, you have to have a good understanding of what FFA was when it was established. And when FFA was established, it was the Future Farmers of America. And it was, strictly for young men that wanted to grow up and become farmers. And at the time, in the early 1920s, farming was a very common profession. There were many, many people that were farmers. Upwards of, a third of our population in the United States were farmers. Well, as of today in 2020, that number has regressed to less than 2%. There are fewer farmers now than there ever have been before. And it's not that, our food production has taken a hit. We're producing more food. We're just doing it with less farmers. People over the last 100 years have began to pursue other careers, and they've left the farm and they've, moved to urban areas. Um, so the number of farmers we have is at an all-time low. However, agriculture itself has grown into something much, much larger than what it was back in 1928 when FFA was established. So by the early 1980s, we realized that we needed to change FFA fundamentally to better prepare the organization for the future. It couldn't just simply serve as a club for young people that wanted to get into farming. Um, it had to be more than just that. So in 1988, at the 60th National FFA Convention, delegates voted to change the name the official name of the organization, from the Future Farmers of America to the National FFA organization. Now, that change might not seem major at first, but when you think about it, that's a very, very fundamental shift. For the first 60 years of its life, FFA stood for the Future Farmers of America, and then they voted to get rid of that name and call it the National FFA organization. That was a big thing. And the reason why they did that was to better encapsulate and better represent and turn FFA from a club of people that wanted to become farmers to an organization for young people that were passionate about agriculture and the future of agriculture. And that's really the main reason why they made that change. And that change occurred 32 years ago today, and I still hear people call FFA the Future Farmers of America. It's one of my pet peeves, and I understand they just don't know any better, but the Future Farmers of America is a thing of the past. It is now known as the National FFA organization. So next time you hear someone call it the Future Farmers of America, you can correct them. You have my permission. So National FFA Convention has had three different homes over the course of history. Back in 1928, that first national convention was in Kansas City. And after 71 years in Kansas City, Missouri, the National FFA Convention moved to Louisville. In 1999, it occurred in Louisville, Kentucky, and it stayed in Louisville until 2005. In 2006, it moved to Indianapolis, and it was held in 2006, from 2006 to 2013, and then from 2013 up through 2000, I believe 15, it rotated between Louisville and Indianapolis, back and forth every 3 years. As of 2016, it moved back to Indianapolis, and it has remained in Indianapolis ever since. There's no real reason to believe it'll move away from Indianapolis anytime soon. I think they signed a contract through like 2025 or something, where it's going to be in Indianapolis for the foreseeable future. So that works out great for us. We're just up the road from Indianapolis. We can buzz down there anytime, and we take several students to National FFA Convention every single year. There you see the three locations of National FFA Convention. Okay, folks, we'll go ahead and stop there today. Tomorrow we will discuss the FFA emblem and the elements of it. You do have some review questions that you need to answer regarding the history of FFA. So those will be on Canvas. Keep in mind that the assignments for e-learning for Friday will be due this Sunday by 11:59 p.m. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to me via email. I will gladly answer those for you. I hope you're all doing well, and let me know if I can help you in any way. Thanks, and have a great day.